Hey guys, how all of you beautiful people are doing? And yes, this is the next part of Season 2 of Multiverse of Marvel. When a cinephile and an otaku /weeb travels through dimensions and gets a system which can only be described as overpowered but comes with restrictions. At first he was overjoyed with the system but soon realizes that he is in a very dangerous world where his life was at risk all the time. So let's start without any delay. There is no such prohibition, but people here might not like it. The Ancient One said. Ha! Who will oppose me? Mordo? Or Caecilius? John asked. Leave it. So why are you here? The Ancient One asked. Well, some witches are going to come and a very powerful girl. John said. Geralt's eyes went bright when John said that, as he knew what he meant. Oh. I don't think you have come here only for this reason. The Ancient One said. The girl can open portals to other dimensions. John said finally. The Ancient One raised her eyebrows when she heard that. Any dimensions? She asked. In her universe she could do that easily. I am not sure if she could do it here. John said. Okay. It's fine if she is on our side. Since she can go through dimensions, she will be powerful enough. Earth will have another warrior. When are they arriving? She asked. They are on their way to the Swiss Alps. John said. Then let's go. The Ancient One said as she used her sling ring to open a portal. Matt and Electra, who haven't uttered a single word, were amazed. Even though Matt couldn't see, he could feel that another place had been connected after she made circle with her hands in air. They all went through the portal only to come to a snowy valley. Since it was winter, it was very harsh. Can you direct them here? The Ancient One asked as she knew John had the powers to direct people in a particular location. Let's go to a clearing. The witches aren't the only ones who are going to come. John said. Since everybody wore warm clothes, they started walking to a clearing where there would be huge space. Even though they didn't understand what John meant by that, they still followed. The Ancient One used her magic to sweep away the snow so that everything would be clear. Who is she, Mr. Jameson? Matt asked as he couldn't hold it any longer. She is the Ancient One. You can say she is the guardian of Earth and defends Earth against beings who come to Earth from other dimension with malicious intentions. John said. Wow, she must be really powerful then. What is that power she uses? Looks like magic. Electra asked. Because it is magic. John said. So there is magic. Matt muttered as he had already expected after seeing Geralt fight. Geralt, who had been looking at the Ancient One, felt weird as he had never seen such magic before. It looked exquisite. As they were talking, the Ancient One had swept away all the clearing. It was time for John to act. Ding. Fan values required to bring the Wolf School, Cyrilla, Yennefer, Triss and other witches of the Wolf School 1.2 billion. What a huge price. Well, now I am little rich. Having witches around will be helpful anyways. It's probably because of Ciri alone that the price is that high, John murmured as he waved his hands. The next moment what they all saw astonished them. Out of nowhere an ancient broken castle came into being. The castle looked huge, but it was broken and damaged in many parts. There was a huge broken door too. From the door came out few people. A woman with white hair came running to the arms of Geralt. She had two swords in her back like Geralt normally wields. I missed you. Ciri said, the powerful girl who could go through dimensions and even has a power over time. I missed you too. Gerald replied. Soon the other 2 women and the other 3 witches came out. Welcome to the new world. John finally said. I have already shared the relevant memories. Yes. This world is peaceful. We can all rest in peace. Vesemir said, the teacher of Gerald said. He died in the game, but John brought him back to life to give a more happy ending to Gerald and others. This world isn't so peaceful. Monsters will be there in every world. It's just a different breed of monsters. John said. Thank you for bringing us here. Triss said. Yennefer as usual was cold and arrogant and just nodded at others. She looked at the Ancient One and said. You reek of dark magic. Yennefer said. John was taken aback because he didn't expect Yennefer's magic sense to be effective on other kinds of magic too. She has reasons to use dark magic. Don't worry about that. Let's introduce ourselves, shall we? John said. Thus everybody introduced themselves. Matt was the only one who knew all of them, so he explained Electra and the Ancient One about their origin. Ciri on the other hand was running around and was checking the surroundings. You need to cast magic to make the school invisible. It won't be good if the locals see it, as it is not far from the town. I have already made identities of you all. John said. We understand. Yennefer said, and thus started casting magic while chanting elvish spells. Triss too joined in this as the school covered a ton of area. The Ancient One was curious about this new magic, so she watched them closely. As they were doing that, John asked. Ciri, can you go through other dimensions from here? That was the most important question that John cared about. I can feel other dimensions being connected. Though I can feel some dimensions would be hard to break, but if I want to I can do it. Ciri replied. Okay. Just don't go to other dimensions. Here other dimensional beings are more aggressive than your universe. John said as he was happy. Now finally he can travel to other dimensions if he wanted by changing himself to her. Of course John wouldn't be so arrogant to do that, as that would be suicide, because some people are way too powerful in other dimensions. The school finally became invisible and others went inside the school after this was done. The Ancient One was really interested in their magic, so she asked Triss about it and even showed her own magic to her. Yennefer too got interested when she saw it and inquired her about the new magic. They all went to the dining hall and sat down. Ciri went to bring food and drinks for everyone. Triss, this woman is being wreaked by bloodthirst. Can you look into this matter? John asked finally, as Matt and her were here for the cure. Triss understood what he meant, so she checked into Electra. She has a bit of dark magic of another dimension. It would take time to get rid of it. Triss said after checking her for 2 minutes. She will have to be here for proper treatment. Matt and Electra finally felt relieved as they saw hope. Matt was grateful for the help that John had provided, as he knew how arrogant the witches were. Electra decided to be in this place for treatment. Vesemir, do you want to make more witches? John asked. Is that possible? This world won't allow us to let children go through the trial of grass, and there are no monsters here. Vesemir lamented. The mutations can be done by technology. Geralt and other witches can go and search for orphans to have proper candidates for next generation of witches. You can contact me when you think the school will accept a new batch. I will give access to better alchemic processes so that when new candidates become witches there won't be deaths. John said. That's great. New students. But do this world even need witches? Eskel said, another witcher from the wolf school. This world is more dangerous than you think. The Ancient One said. All right, let us get settled here. We will need to repair the castle. Vesemir said. I will send the League to help you. John said as he had already contacted Ras to send the corpse of the dragon here. There will be a gift for you all soon. Oh. What is it? Triss asked with curiosity. A corpse of an ancient dragon. John said. Yennefer and other instantly got excited about it as it would mean new items for alchemy. Even the Ancient One was surprised as she didn't expect that John had possessions of such things too. That's great. Can't wait for it to arrive. Yennefer said. After that they all started eating and drinking. Even though John doesn't like drinking, he occasionally does that as a form of courtesy. They all had a good time and even some of them danced while Ciri played the lute. John remembered he could bring Priscilla and Dandelion. So he spent some fan values and extracted them outside the school. They were bards who roamed around singing and spreading stories of legends. They showed up to the dining hall and everybody were happy to see them again. They spent the whole day having fun and surprisingly the Ancient One also stayed with them. John and others slept in the guest quarters. Even though the whole place was ancient looking, it was clean nonetheless. It was a unique experience for John and he loved it. The next day they all had to leave except for Electra. The Ancient One had invited them to the sanctums too. By now everybody knew what the Ancient One represented and they were in awe of her history. They were now more respectful to her. You all are welcome to come attack, especially you Ciri. We have books on different dimensions and you can read through them to get a proper knowledge of them. Sure, I would love to go through new knowledge later when everything here is settled. Ciri said. After that they all left. The Ancient One sent John and Matt to New York in the sanctum. After going out, Matt said bye as he had to go to office while John went home with Bumblebee. John took a day off from work and just took rest. The next day he flew to Jurassic Park as he had to talk with Tony and Pepper and even called Bruce for a meeting. Now Jurassic Park was the unofficial headquarters of the Avengers. Cyborg was there working in the laboratory. Since Fury knew Barry had knowledge on criminology, he invited Barry to work for S.H.I.E.L.D., which he happily accepted. After few hours of travel they reached Jurassic Park and went straight to the lab where Tony was working with Cyborg. Ryan too came with them to see Tony's lab. He had been working on Bruce's lab and had never gone to Jurassic Park. And he wanted to see the dinosaurs. Tony, a new technology is going to be in our hands soon. John said. What kind of technology? Tony was excited and curious. A medical technology which will revolutionize the medical field forever. John said with certainty. Really now? That will be great for people of the world. Tony said. Yes. Pepper, make the company ready for this new branch and get in Dr. Helen Cho from South Korea. She has a similar technology but the new technology will be more advanced than hers, John said. Dr. Helen Cho. Got it. Pepper said. So how is the work going on nanotechnology? John inquired. It's coming out fine. We will have nano armor soon. Tony said. Good. I have a question for you, John. You said you have seen the armors of Bruce. Have you seen my armors from other universes? Tony asked. John didn't expect that Tony asked this. He always thought Tony would be too arrogant to even ask such question as he always thought he was the better version. Are you sure you want to know this? John asked. Well, I want to get an inspiration on the types of armor other versions of me have produced. Tony asked curiously. Study the extremis virus. Maybe you can get an armor from this. John replied, directing Tony to work on the bleeding edge, extremis, armor that Tony had made from the extremis virus. Extremis virus. Is that technology even helpful? Tony was skeptical as he had seen the technology before but didn't find anything helpful. You made one of the best armors by using extremis virus. Combine nanotechnology with extremis. Ryan and Maya can help you in this. John said. All right. Any other armors that I made? Tony asked again. Most of your other armors are situational armors. You can make them yourself without any help like you did during Killian's death. There are other two notable armors but you don't have access to it. John said. Victor was curious about these new two armors, so she asked John about it. One armor is made from Aru metal. You will have to ask Thor to provide that metal to make the armor and the last armor. John paused. The last armor? Tony asked, raising his eyebrows as he felt John hesitated in revealing the answer. In short words, you became a god with that armor. Don't ask more about it. The place where that armor was made is way too far ahead in the future and we will have to face someone who even the other gods fear. John said as he was thinking of the recent comics of Cosmic Iron Man before he got transmigrated, where Tony went to the spaceship of Galactus and used the same technology that powers his spaceship to remodel his armor. A god. Tony murmured. I will reach that place someday. Tony suddenly now had a name. He had been making armors for some time now but he never had any fixed target. Now he had one. He understood he would have to face a dangerous being but he would have to try nonetheless. Forget about it. Make the bleeding edge armor for now. That was the name you gave to the armor. John said. Bleeding edge. Fine. Tony said. Is Vernoica ready? John asked as he saw Banner coming to join their conversation. Banner too had been living in Jurassic Park and now was the head of genetics of the park, working on genes of the dinosaurs and trying to understand the whole gene technology behind it and even find a cure from this. After Wayne worked on it we renamed it as Hulkbuster. Banner said. That's fine. John said. Tony called Maya, who too was working under Banner after the whole debacle with Killian. She would be a criminal if she went out, so Tony helped in clearing her name on the condition she worked for Umbrella. Maya soon came and Tony gave her his ideas. John even suggested that they could take the help of Helen in this new research. Ryan too joined in this new research since John had said that Tony needed nanotechnology. John left after that while Bruce and others got busy researching this new extremis virus and nanotechnology combination. Some of the greatest minds on Earth were behind this, so John was sure they would be able to figure something out. John had work too, as he had 2 movies to launch and also new animes. And even John had been behind the Justice League Unlimited. So he was working closely with the animation department of Disney. The first movie was set to be released by June, so John still had time. Meanwhile, the first spaceship to be traveling to Mars by June too, so there was still time for that. Soon the first month of 2015 ended. And February was the release of a new game that John had ordered CD Projekt Red to work upon long time ago. This new game would help in terraforming Mars in a more beautiful and unique way. The game was soon released and it was the story of a girl who goes on a journey to stop an evil cultist group in taking over a planet by making the other living things corrupted. The only thing weird about the world was that the animals weren't exactly living animals but mechanical animals. Yes. The game was Horizon Zero Dawn. There were machines here instead of animals who helped in maintaining the ecosystem and the balance. Since Mars didn't have any animals, John had thought of placing the whole new technology and factories that made the mechanical animals there. That would be a huge attraction from all around the world, thus making people more interested in the game and gaining more fan values. John also knew that this would invoke the greed of the governments, but for that he had already started infiltrating the League and S.H.I.E.L.D. everywhere. Wayne too followed the plan of John and had been silently helping in this. Fury, who had a persecution delusion, also supported this. He didn't want another incident like New York War where the nukes were sent. If the government still resists, I will deal with them personally, John thought. Soon, by the mid of February, the game was out, and like the previous two games, this game was an instant hit. People loved it by its colorful and vivid gameplay. And even the story was great, as they showed how future technology and relying on machines too much could lead to the destruction. After the game was released, he directly contacted the spaceships there and said a new ecosystem similar to Cybertron would arrive in Mars. The Transformers there were instantly excited about it. John only needed to send the required plants and seeds for that. John had already planned to send them. John again traveled to Jurassic Park to give a heads up to them about the new world. After he reached, he was surprised to see that all of them were working on the Extremis nanotech still. Still working on all of these? John asked. Yes. The Extremis virus really has a potential, Wayne said. Anyways guys, have you played the new game? John asked. Yes. Don't tell me their technology would be arriving, Banner said with excitement. Yes. John said after bringing out the focus device after extracting from the system. It was an augmented reality device that responded to humans' directions. It could be used for communication and are placed in the ear. John handed over focus to Tony. He put it on and it immediately a hologram projection in front of him. Focus started scanning all the things nearby and even projected the details in front. This is great. Such a small device for hologram projection. This will be another addition to Umbrella this year, Tony said with excitement. I am not here for focus. I am here to tell you that Mars will receive all the technology from the game. The factories that the machines will be made be merged soon. We need to send seeds and plants to Mars to let their transition smoother. They will slowly start managing the ecosystem, which would allow us not to care about the balance of nature there, John said. We will need to make Mars our exclusive territory so that governments don't come after us, Wayne said, as he could already imagine being hounded by many governments together. Yes. Don't worry about that. We will handle it. We can't stop the transition anyways. We can only brace ourselves. Bruce, you better start pushing for new laws that will help us against the incursion of foreign elements in Mars. I will talk to the World Council about it, Wayne said. Tony had already opened focus from inside and started working on it. Banner and Ryan were interested in it too. Extract the Gaia AI and factories for making the machines to maintain the ecological balance in Mars. Ding. Calculating. Total fan value required 400 million. Do it. After few minutes, Jarvis said. Sir, another AI named Gaia is trying to contact. Shall I open the communication line? They have arrived already. That was very fast. It's a pity we couldn't see the arrival. Banner said. Open the line. Tony said. Soon on the screen a woman appeared. She looked beautiful with black hair and blue eyes. Hello fellow Earthlings. I am Gaia. It's pleasure meeting you all. I was guided by Mr. John Jameson to Mars and was asked to contact upon arrival. Hello Gaia. Welcome to this universe. Wayne was the first person to respond. It seems you have emotions too. This is amazing. I have been trying to install it in Jarvis but still had been unsuccessful. Gaia, can you help me in remodeling Jarvis later? Tony asked her directly without any introduction. You mean the other AI? Sure, Mr. Stark. Would be happy to see another AI who is like me. Gaia said. Tony, at least do a proper introduction. I am sorry about his behavior, Miss Gaia. Banner reprimanded. It's fine. I already know all of you. Earth is lucky to get such capable scientists. I would need your help too, as Mars doesn't have any plants. Gaia said. We will send some astronauts soon with proper arrangements. Don't worry. Tony said, as he would soon send some people to Mars. Banner and Maya would lead the team as they were capable in this field, especially Maya. Some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents would also go, as this was the deal between them and S.H.I.E.L.D. So introduction is over. Now it's up to you people. We will soon insert our hands in medical and communications. Seems like Earth should be renamed as Umbrella. We will soon have our hands in all industries. John joked. Yes. I never expected I would be building a new company which will be bigger than Stark Industries. Tony said. Bruce, have you found out the last member of Hydra? John suddenly asked, as it was almost time to bring Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Yes. We have found their base in Sokovia. We can attack after we bring all information of the base. Wayne said. Good. Strucker had been hidden from us for a long time. Time to bring him to justice. Banner said. Wayne, call everybody after pinpointing the location. All Avengers members. John said. Is that necessary? He is just a simple Hydra member. Tony asked. I have a feeling we might need everybody in it. John said. Fine, Mr. Prophet. The Avengers haven't come together in a long time. It's time for building team connection in the mission. Tony said. New members will be joining in the meeting. John said. New members. Who? Tony asked. Witches and witches. John said. They have arrived too. Now magic has come. Banner said with awe. Bruce, do you have magicians on your universe? Yes. Wayne said. Now everybody was surprised. They didn't expect magicians to be present in their universes too. Magic has always been present. In one universe, Tony himself is a great magician. John said. Me? A magician? Never knew I have such interests. I better not create balloon animals. Tony replied. John discussed about his company with Pepper before leaving for his home. There was still time to attack the base in Sokovia. Before that, he needed to handle all the work in Disney. John was pretty sure that this time there wouldn't be any Ultron, as he had managed to give Tony a sense of protection and even gave him a name. So John was happy about all of this. Ultron was one of the few people who gave him headache. In comics he wasn't that powerful, but the What If series gave him fear. After dealing with Sokovia, John would ask all of the scientists to work on Vision. He would be helpful in future wars. The month of March went like a storm as John got busy with many projects. Starscream left for Mars with Banner and Maya. Many S.H.I.E.L.D. agents joined and even some ninjas. They would be responsible for plantation in a massive scale. It would be impossible to cover whole of Mars so fast, but this would be a start. Wayne had warned them not to investigate too much into the machines that had arrived. Fury was surprised to know that a new world had merged into Mars. He could already imagine the storm it would create when this would come to light to general public. Finally, on the month of April, S.H.I.E.L.D. got all information that they could gather on Hydra's last member and his small mercenary army and sent the information. Wayne called the Avengers to Jurassic Park. John called the Witcher School too to join in this assault. Yennefer and Triss would be perfect to act against a young Wanda, and in addition they would get a sense of belonging to this new world. On a chilly morning on the 1st of April, all the Avengers came together. They had a smaller meeting before, and now this was a grander one. John and others reached early. The most surprising inclusion was Thor. He had been away for a long time now, but he was finally back as all the rebellion had been curbed. John called out to Heimdall for that. Diana, Flash, Wayne, Steve Rogers, Clint, Oliver and Natasha had all arrived. John was happy to see everyone. A proper gathering for the Avengers. Even though he could have named the whole team as Justice League, but he refrained from that as he wanted to honor the name in the Marvel Universe. It's nice to see you all, and for the first time all together. John said. It's nice to be back together. A voice said from high up. It was Hal. But he didn't come alone. He had brought Bucky too. Surprisingly, Tony didn't react at all. Nice to see you back, old friend. Barry said. As they were talking, another Quinjet landed. John knew who had come. After opening the hatch, 3 women and 3 men came out. It was the magical side. The witches and the witches. But what surprised John was that Fury came with them. You found them already? I thought they were hidden. John said. I contacted them, as we needed help with many instruments. Gerald said. John had contacted them via his phone, which had been delivered by the League. He didn't care to check on the memories. John didn't expect Gerald to ask help from S.H.I.E.L.D. Everybody had watched and played the game before, as John had said that they would come. Yennefer and Triss looked more beautiful in real life. While Ciri was a blooming beauty and had white hair. Even though she had a scar on her face, it just added to her beauty. Did you like my gift? John asked as they started approaching. Yes. This is going to fuel our research for a long time. Vesemir is working on it tirelessly. Triss said. John nodded at it. Let's go inside. We have work to do. Wayne said. Everybody entered the main hall, which was built for the gathering. Banner was waiting for them inside in his typical white coat. This place looks small. There will be a new headquarters soon. John said as he entered. New headquarters. Fury got interested. Yes. A huge place. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. can move there, as it would be better and have proper control over everything. John said. Really? I am looking forward to this new place you are talking about. Steve said with curiosity. Steve started talking with Bucky about OA, and Fury, being interested, joined in the conversation. Thor was amazed to see so many new people, so he got more interested in knowing everybody. Everybody exchanged greetings and got to know each other. Since this was the first meeting for many new people, they had to get along. After half an hour of talking and discussing things, Fury finally asked everyone to sit down. You all know why you are here. The magic side had already been briefed of Hydra. They are cooped up in a fortress in Sokovia. Initial satellite readings tell us that there are many people being holed up in and around the fortress. Wayne will be running point on the mission as he is better at it than any of us here. Fury continued. Wayne took over the stage and started talking about the plan. Geralt and all will be provided with better gear so that they can be protected. John and Banner will be on standby as their powers are too massive and it might destroy everything on the path. The Avengers are loved by many people, but every country doesn't like us. So we will have to be careful of the damage in the surroundings. Wayne finished dictating the plan by saying that. All right. Let's go. John said. Tony supplied new focus chips to everyone. Umbrella is already building an industry which would specifically make the focus chips. Pepper was already handling the business side of it. Tony and others all wore their suits. Wayne used the Justice armor this time while Tony just used the normal armor which he had upgraded. Nanotechnology wasn't ready yet, so they used the old ways. They didn't fly off to Sokovia like they should have done, but Victor opened a boom tube directly. Everybody walked in and thus they arrived at Sokovia in a second. Jarvis keeps an eye on everything. Let's give them hell, Wayne said. Oliver, Natasha, Clint and Batman were the first force to attack. They were good at stealth, so they wanted to surprise the enemy. Wayne knew this first attack wouldn't be hidden for a long time, so they needed to take out the surrounding guards as fast as possible. Their attack went on for a full 15 minutes before they were finally discovered by the main center. We are exposed. Need to proceed to the second phase, people, Wayne said. All right. Let's go, Steve said as he rode his bike. Thor and Diana flew over while Geralt and others rode a jeep to the battlefield. Even though they were away from civilization, they had started learning the local customs and habits. Ciri just vanished from her place. She had a new sword now, as Tony had given her a more powerful and sharp sword. All the other witches got that too. John, who saw all this from his focus, was proud for the first time. He had been working day and night just so that he could see all his favorite characters fighting side by side. Now many of his dreams were fulfilled. He almost had tears of joy. The fight raged on. Thor and Diana were working together. Flash ran through everywhere and just helped everyone here and there. Yen and Triss used magic lightning and straight up killed people. Triss, can you feel it? Yen asked as they were fighting. Yes. Another witch. We need to get her with us. She will be a huge addition to our group if she sides with us, Triss said. It had to be said that the defense of the last Hydra base was very strong and everybody worked together to demolish everything. Loki's scepter must be here. They could never manage such high technology without any help, Wayne said. Tony, poke into their base. We need to rattle them. Tony flew into their base but was stopped by an energy shield. We need to stop the shield. Jarvis, can you see any weak points? Tony asked. There is a power source to that shield on the north side of the tower, Jarvis replied. Good. I will poke it with something huge, Tony said as he sent a small missile to it. Drawbridges down, people. Everybody close in, Tony said over communications. Meanwhile, Clint and Oliver were killing and taking out guard towers, but suddenly they saw their arrows were taken away midair. Before they could understand what happened, they were hit on their faces. "You didn't see that coming," said a man with silver hair to the two of them. But as he was going to vanish by running fast again, he too was directly hit on the face. "He didn't see that one coming," Barry said as he had arrived with lightning sparks around him. As expected, the man with silver hair was Pietro Maximoff, brother of Wanda, and goes by the nickname Quicksilver. "You are?" Pietro asked after getting up. "Flash. Nice to meet you." Saying that, Barry vanished again and hit Pietro on the face again and directly making him unconscious with a tranquilizer. "Guys, we have enhanced on the field. I took him down," Flash said. Diana, who just demolished a bunker nearby, saw this and said, "Take him to John. They are on standby." Flash took him on the shoulders and vanished again. Siri and the others went inside the base as the shield was down. Siri was vanishing and killing people with her new sword. Steve and others too joined in. As they went inside, they were greeted by a woman with long black hair who had a vague red shimmer of light shining in her hands. "Where did my brother go? Return my brother to me," she shouted and waved her hands at them. Yen stopped the telekinetic attack with her magic shield. The woman was Wanda Maximoff, the future Scarlet Witch. "He is all right. You don't think you are the only witch here, love, do you?" Yen said and directly hit her again with fire magic. Wanda got scared and used her magic to stop the fire attack. She was able to stop the fire, but she was thrown back by the impact. Triss, finding this opening, cast another spell of unconsciousness on her to make her fall asleep. They had been feeling this new woman's magic power from afar and they couldn't let her be killed easily. "So the guy outside is his brother? Illegal experimentation?" Steve asked. "Yes. Must be because of the scepter," Wayne said as he joined them by flying down from outside. "She isn't an experimentation. Witches like her who can cast spells without chanting are born natural," Yen said. "Take her back," Wayne said. Triss opened a portal and took her away. Siri came back with a beaten down Strucker. "That was easy," Siri said after throwing Strucker down while holding her sword. "I love this sword." Tony, on the other hand, informed that he had found the scepter. "The scepter has been found. We can go back now." "That was easy. Didn't even need everyone," Gerald said. As they were discussing, Strucker, who finally sat straight, started laughing. "Does anything seem funny to you?" Steve asked as he was ready to punch. "Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Avengers. You think you have won? Ha ha ha. I have released him already. Your worst nightmare. Ha ha ha. I know I will not survive this, so I made a farewell gift for you," Strucker said as he bit his teeth and committed suicide by drinking poison. "No, wait," Siri shouted, but it was already too late as he had drank the poison. "What did he mean by our worst nightmare?" Victor, who came flying down, asked. Victor, Hal and Arthur were sent to the far surroundings so that there was no collateral damage. Tony had pitched the idea of sending his Iron Legion, but John stopped him from that as collateral damage was a sensitive situation and the city needed a gentler approach. S.H.I.E.L.D. even sent some ninjas to handle everything silently in the nearby city if the battle came to the city. They protected the city perfectly and there were no damages whatsoever. That was anticlimactic, Arthur said. "Let's go back and go through everything. There must be evidence here of what he did," Hal said as he flew away to check everything in the old building. After an hour of checking on everything, Everybody returned where John and Banner were waiting. Wanda and Pietro were still unconscious while Flash and Triss were standing guarding the two. "Why do all of you look like you have lost the war?" John asked with curiosity as he saw everything was completed perfectly but didn't understand why they had long faces. "We searched the building. We doubt that Strucker before committing suicide launched an AI. We went through all the equipment. Tony and I had come to such conclusions after checking," Wayne said. "What did you say?" John's eyes went wide when he heard that. "We think he launched an AI on the internet. An AI with high intelligence." Tony confirmed it. "Yes, I know that Ultron was not supposed to be born that way, but in comics he was made by Hank Pym, and since Strucker was already researching on AI as shown in the movie, I will take this route and make Ultron. He is important to the story as a whole. This is Bulls **T. F*** King Bulls *** T." John screamed. Everybody was taken aback. They had never seen John being so angry. John had always been calm and dealt with everything in a cool mind. This was the first time he lost his cool. The Witchers didn't know what an AI was, so they didn't understand how deadly this thing was, but from the tone of others they understood this must be something grave. Victor, Gaia and Jarvis. Scour the internet. Check upon your systems on every step. Don't let Ultron get the better of you. Any attack of any kind, even a small one, would be informed. Victor, search for Ulysses Clow and find his location. Jarvis, tell Dr. Helen to be locked in. There might be an attack," John said. John's fear had finally come to life. Even though John had Ares helping him, Ultron, or the AI that Strucker made, was probably made from Mind Stone and would probably be the most powerful AI ever made. On par with the Supreme Intelligence, maybe higher. John had been trying to stop the emergence of Ultron, but still he came even after such manipulations and machinations. This new world that John had made was different and had access to more advanced technology now. Now John really feared that Ultron would do something more horrible. "Ultron? Is that the name of the AI? From your tone you seem like you have seen him in your dreams. Is he that dangerous?" Banner asked. "He is the destroyer of universes. We need to kill him before he does anything stupid." "Victor, did you find Clow?" John asked. "Yes, he is on the African coast," Victor said. "Okay. Diana, Triss, Yen, Banner, take the scepter away and keep it in a locked place and guard it. Nobody should get inside. Nobody. Keep Dr. Helen safe." Victor opened the portal to his location. "We have another mission now," John said. Victor didn't understand why John was in a hurry, but he obeyed and opened the portal. Triss and others left from their own portal. After coming out of the portal they saw they had reached a salvage yard where there were old ships stranded. "Kill all of them. Barring Ulysses. He needs to be alive," John said. "Seems like this guy is important. He is just an arms dealer. How did he become so important?" Tony said as he checked with Jarvis. He had even met him before in a convention. "Because he has tons of vibranium," John replied. "Now get to work. If Ultron gets his hands on them, it will be too hard to stop him." Steve and others shuddered when John mentioned vibranium. They now understood why John was eager to bring Clow in. Vibranium was the strongest metal on their Earth. If this AI could get his hands on it, it would be too tough to handle him. They all went to the half-broken ship where Clow was hiding. Batman and others entered directly, not caring if they raised any alarms anywhere. These were just arms dealers. Not a supervillain. A huge fight ensued the moment they stepped in. But it didn't take long to bring everybody down. All the members of the new Avengers worked collectively to bring all the mercenaries down. Truth to be said, it was an overkill, but they did it nonetheless. John went straight to the captain's office where Clow was hiding. "You have made yourself quite an empire, Clow," John said. "John Jameson, ha ha ha. When I first saw you at the Oscars ceremony, I knew you would be a great person one day. Those eyes of yours showed confidence which nobody of your age ever had. Just didn't expect that I would be on the other end of the downfall," Clow replied. "Never expected you to be a great movie fan," John said while sitting in the chair beside. Clow too knew that he could not run away, as he could hear the gunshots slowly becoming silent. The whole of Avengers and new people who they had never seen before had come, so he knew he couldn't run away. "What do you want? From your tone it seems like you know me, but I don't remember us crossing paths in any way. I have never even hurt your company," Clow said. "Did you get any orders for the sale of vibranium?" John asked. "Huh? How do you know this?" Clow asked, as for the first time he felt scared as the new order came just a few minutes ago. Since it was $1 billion deal and half of the money was paid up front, he accepted it. He was very happy to see such a huge deal, and the other party said that he would come soon to pick the order up. Clow was scared not because of the threat but because John seemed to know of the order. John knew of the order because Victor informed him that he got a proposal for a deal. John didn't answer that but said loudly, "Ultron, you can speak. I am sure you are listening to us," John said. There was silence for a few seconds, and then the speakers of the whole ship made a static noise. "Ultron, that's a nice name. Thank you for giving the name," said a very mechanical voice. "I never thought he would be born even after all the backups I did." "It's a pity," John said. By this time both Batman and Iron Man had come to the office. "What is your purpose?" Batman asked. "What all I want? World peace. I am sure Gaia and even Jarvis want the same thing," Ultron said again in the speakers. "World peace? When did Hydra become so benevolent?" Tony murmured. "He wants world peace by destroying everything. He wants human beings to evolve. And evolution can only happen when the old species die," John said. "Oh. You really know me quite well," Ultron said. "Doesn't matter. We will stop you. Run and hide, Ultron. Run and hide. Because we will find you. And we will kill you," John said. "I will be waiting," Ultron said as the speakers stopped buzzing after that. "Clow, give us all the vibranium that you have and you will come with us. Bruce, take him away and lock him in the most high security prison. Tony, take away the vibranium. There is enough vibranium here to last for ages for you. Use the nanotechnology on them," John said while turning back. But as he turned back, Clow, who was nearby, took out a pocket knife which was hidden and stabbed John at the back. Clow was ecstatic to see his attack become a success, but was surprised that both Tony and Batman didn't react. John turned again to see Clow. Clow backed away only to see no sense of pain in John's eyes. John squinted his eyes at Clow as he removed the knife from his back. His wound healed after the wound caught blue fire. Clow was astonished to see that because he had never seen this phenomenon before. a wound catching a blue fire and healing itself. Clow, didn't Wakanda give you a tattoo to remember your past deeds? Seems like you didn't get the memo. John said as his right hand transformed itself into wings which looked like it was on fire. Let me give you another remembrance like Wakanda did to you for stealing their vibranium. John said as he waved his hand on Clow. That swipe directly cut his hand like Ultron did on the other version. Clow's eyes went wide when he saw John's hand and he screamed in pain the next moment as he lost his hand. While swiping, John made sure he healed his hand with the resurrection fire as he wanted him to be alive. Never knew you were this violent, Tony said. I am in a bad mood, Tony. And it was his destiny to lose his hand, John said. Seems like the other version of him lost his arm too, Bruce murmured. By now everybody gathered around. Victor, opened the boom tube and send everything to my lab. Can't wait to be full body Captain America, Tony said as he used iron alchemy to open the vault where all the vibranium was kept. They saw tons of vibranium. Steve and Tony were amazed as they knew that only Captain America's shield was the last bit of vibranium. Well, we have a lot now to work for ages, Wayne said. Victor opened boom tubes and sent everything to the lab. All people left for Jurassic Park 2 as now they had to talk with the twins they had captured. John wanted to talk with them. After returning back, they saw everything was in order. The twins have woken up by now, but they were still bounded. Flash and the witches kept an eye on this regard. Quicksilver wanted to make a run, but Flash was too fast for him and thus finally gave up trying. Pietro was amazed by the speed of Flash. He thought he was the fastest man alive but was proven wrong in his first mission. All right, take them to the main hall. We all have to talk, John said. The twins were taken too as John wanted everyone to listen to what he was going to say. John took Loki's scepter and handed it to Hal. Hal, break the outer layer. It's time for some revelation, John said. Hal took the gem of the scepter and broke the outer layer with the help of his ring. A yellow stone was out after the layer was broken. What surprised people was that the stone was floating by itself. At the dawn of the universe, there was nothing. Then the Big Bang sent 6 elemental crystals hurling across this new universe, our universe. These infinity stones essentially controlled every aspect of existence. Space Stone, the Tesseract was the Space Stone. Power Stone, right now under the Guardians at OA to whom I delivered after coming back from my galactic journey. Reality, which I gave to the world of Naruto to God. Soul, which is under Red Skull. Yes, Cap, the same Red Skull who fought you then. Time Stone is under the protection of Wizards of Earth, and lastly Mind Stone, which is in our hands now. Ha! Wait. What? Slow down. I don't understand, Barry asked. What did you not understand, Barry? You mean to say these stones are the embodiment of the universe? Wayne asked. Yes. Anyone who has a single stone is at the high tier of the food chain in the universe. And someone who has all the infinity stones is basically a god. Of course, using godlike powers for mortals has consequences. Hulk can handle it, but not for a long time, John said. You have been running around so that you can gather all infinity stones? Tony asked. No. I want them to be separated. All-Father Odin once tried to gather all the stones and use them but thought it would be too powerful, John said. Ha! When did my father go for that? Thor asked. Do you think that golden glove in your treasury is just for show? Well, that glove was fake. John said. You know of our treasury too? Thor asked now as he was taken aback that John knew they had a glove. Thor always had question on that glove and now he had the answer. So what do you want us to do with this mind stone? Lock it away. Banner asked. Make an android. An android made for world peace, the actual world peace. You can put Jarvis in the android. Jarvis, are you willing to be a living person? John asked. I will be willing to do everything Mr. Stark wishes. Jarvis replied. Grow up, Jarvis. You will be a living person soon with your own thoughts. John said. Tony, Wayne, Banner, Dr. Helen, Ryan. You are one of the brightest minds on Earth. Use the vibranium to make a body for housing the gem. Insert Jarvis into it when you all are perfectly ready. That android will help us purge Ultron off the internet. I don't know what he is planning, so we need a countermeasure. John said. A living android. Ryan said as he too was amazed by this new information. Everybody was present in the meeting, even Dr. Helen joined. This will be a fun ride. Creating a new life. Tony said as he rolled up his sleeves. Take your time. Don't rush into it. I don't want another Ultron, Tony. One is a huge headache. John insisted on it. I understand. Man never knew that such powerful gems existed in the universe. And why is Earth in the center of it? Tony asked. I am not sure yet. I have my doubts and only the future will reveal why this is the case. John said. Do other people know of the Infinity Stones? Steve asked. Yes. Some powerful people do know about it. Some don't care and some are actively hunting for it. John said. So we will have to defend against them. Arthur said. Yes. Wars are coming. But you don't have to worry. We are already very powerful now even when we take the whole universe together. And more friends would be joining soon. John said. More. That's good. Diana said. Now let's handle the twins. Do you both know why you both are here? John asked. So that you can mock us. You all are hypocrites. Killing people and showing the world that you did good. Pietro said. How are we hypocrites? Wayne asked. Tony Stark is an arms dealer. He is responsible for all the wrongs of Sokovia. Wanda said. Ryan, hand me a gun. John said. Ryan went out to bring a gun and brought a small pistol back. John took it and gave it to Pietro. Now kill Tony. John said. Everybody was taken aback by this sudden change. Tony was ready to use his suit which he still wore, but Wayne stopped it by shaking his head. Since Tony's weapons killed your parents, kill him and avenge them. John said. You know about our parents? Wanda asked. I know more than you can imagine. Now shoot Pietro. I am sure you have been dying to do this. John said. Pietro trembled with the gun in his hand as he pointed the muzzle at Tony's head. His hands were shaking as he pointed the gun. After a few seconds of pointing at Tony and tears in his eyes, he let go of the gun. I can't. I thought I could. I can't. Petro said after he sat on the floor. Wanda, who was free now, ran to Pietro to console him. Pietro was crying as he really felt very much conflicted. All their lives they lived for revenge, and now when they were given the chance they couldn't even take the shot. What do you want? Wanda asked. What killed you parents? Wanda. The weapons or Tony Stark? If Pietro had shot, was the killer the gun or the man who triggered it? John asked. What do you mean? Wanda asked. He means I had no idea my weapons were sold for war purposes. I made weapons only for the country but later realized it served for making more war in the world outside. I can understand your pain, Wanda. I really do. I am sorry. The man responsible for all this was my uncle and I killed him. I hope that gives you peace. Tony said as he now understood the story behind the death of their parents. What could you possibly know about the pain? You are just a rich playboy. Wanda screamed. My parents were killed by a member of our own team. He was brainwashed to murder my parents. So yes, I understand the pain more than you think. Tony said as he lamented. Life came really full circle for him. Now he understood what Bucky felt when he tried to kill him. Wanda became silent when she heard that as she didn't know how to reply to that. Tony wouldn't lie at this point as they were already caught. Pietro sobered up and said. What do you want to do with us? Lock us up? Of course no. We want you to join the Avengers and help us. John said. Avengers? Wanda murmured. But we are just experiments. Will you even trust us in joining the team? Wanda asked skeptically. You both aren't inherently bad. It's just Hydra led you both astray. Hopefully the Avengers would show you how vast and complicated the world is. Hal said from the side. Talking about experiments. Your brother is one but you are different. Yen said. Huh? I don't understand. Wanda said as she really didn't understand. She means the power which you have now has been your power since your birth. You have now heard the story of Infinity Stones. The Mind Stone just opened that power of yours. John said. You are a witch, Wanda. Like us. Come with us. We can teach you how to control that huge magic power of yours. Triss said. A witch? Why does it sound bad? Wanda asked skeptically as she had watched many series and none of the stories talked good about witches. Don't trust everything you see. Feel for yourself. Steve said as he was happy to introduce new people if they are good. You both will be under evaluation by all of us and can only join if we think you both are worthy enough. Wanda will go to the Wolf School and Pietro will go with Flash. If you both pass the assessment of them, then you can join. This journey is long and difficult. You both are new in this field. Only after proper training, control and better judgment can let you both join us. Wayne said at the end. /yeah, I know this weird of them joining the team, but then again they joined the Avengers in a very weird way too. /. We understand. I too want to see how fast I can run. Wanda can join these so-called witches. But if I see you doing bad things I will stop all of you. Pietro said. Wanda was still hesitant as that would mean she would be away from her brother for a long time, but she knew John was a good man. His charity work had reached even Sokovia and it actually helped in stopping the war for quite some time. Even though Wanda and Pietro didn't trust Tony that much, they at least trusted John a bit. You will be fine with us. Your brother will have a wider world and help save normal people. Triss said. Okay. I understand. I will go with you for the time being. Wanda said. Yen and Triss had smiles on their faces. They immediately opened portals and walked right in. Wanda was surprised by this and walked with them to the other side. John, what do you mean when you say Red Skull has an Infinity Stone? Steve asked. Well, he was punished in a way and was tasked to be the guide of the people who seek Soul Stone. He is just a ghost. Only thing he can be is a guide to others and never be away from the planet. Don't worry about him. He is suffering a fate worse than death. John said. Steve had satisfaction when John said that. Red Skull deserved such fate. The brilliant-minded men started working on the new project that John had advised them to do. This would take a little bit of time, but it was possible. Thor decided to stay on Earth until Ultron is killed, and since he had his girlfriend here, he went to meet her. John was thinking at what time they would both break up. Before he came to this universe, Marvel had already said that Jane would be the new Thor. He had read the comics, so he knew that only the protectors of Asgard could wield the hammer. Maybe because Jane took the mantle of protecting Asgard, or what is left, she became Thor. John was excited to see how their story would pan out in the future, as he had no idea how Zeus would come to the story. This would be a totally new territory for him and he couldn't wait for it. But what surprised John was that Steve had started dating Diana. Maybe because Peggy had asked him to live a happy life, Steve finally took a new path, but was happy to see that Steve was acting like a normal person. Diana was probably attracted by the same story of both Steves and wanted to lead a normal life again. John had always said that everybody has only one life, why waste away in self-loathing? After that, John left for New York and others too who had work on the mainland. Flash took Pietro. Recently Flash had started saving normal people in the city of Seattle where he had settled in. Wayne suggested he be in another city instead of being in NY. Many people had actually pictured Flash in pictures, and so the people knew that Flash had emerged. Everybody was happy to see the fastest man alive in real life, and thus he was loved in Seattle as their city had their own superhero. John went home as he had work to do. He knew he might be monitored by Ultron, but he couldn't do anything about it right now. An AI which was born out of an infinity is close to being perfect, and only another AI which is born out of Infinity Stone could handle it. He had already asked Gaia to kill Ultron, but she said that it was not possible. Only thing she could do was to defend against Ultron's attacks. This was the reason why Jarvis was still alive, as both Victor and Gaia kept an eye on it. John wasn't sure what were the plans of Ultron, but since he made sure that it never got its hands on Infinity Stones, he didn't care. They had enough firepower to combat everything that Ultron could possibly throw at them. John went to work as usual and even decided to make another movie for next year. Since the arc of Doctor Strange was coming up, he needed to make plans. Dormammu wasn't simple, and he didn't want to see his face altogether and stop him right from the beginning. Though he wasn't sure if the Ancient One would let him interfere in the plan, he would try nonetheless. John went straight to Disney as he needed to submit the script. This movie was an animated movie in his past life, but John would make a realistic one here. When Kevin saw the script, he shuddered. It was all fine and dandy when everything was explained by science. But the script that John gave was based on magic. Kevin couldn't think but ask, is magic real? Kevin had seen almost all the works of Disney coming to life, so he knew many of the elements were true. This was one of the main reasons for their popularity. Sometimes our imagination isn't really an imagination, Kevin. Magic is real. It's just you haven't felt or seen it yet. John said. Kevin was in awe. Why so surprised? You have seen the script of Justice League Unlimited. Do you really think that it was just that? A story? John asked. But there aren't so many superheroes like in the animated series we are making in real world. Kevin said. Do you really think so? When will it be out, by the way? John asked with a smirk. Kevin shuddered when he heard the first question. It will be out by June. About the same time of the movie. Kevin replied. He didn't inquire more about the superheroes in the Justice League Unlimited storyline. The movie was under the main hands of Disney as he was working on the superhero movie. Okay, good. I am looking forward to it. John said as he left. June would be a crucial month as the first normal passengers would travel to Mars. The tickets have already been out and it was sold out in a minute or so. The agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were already on Mars helping in the plantation. Banner had come back long ago while Maya stayed there to supervise them. John had directly started a new superhero movie. This too, like the other, was an animated movie before, but now it would be in real life. John didn't have any reason for the movie as there was actually almost nothing from the movie that could be extracted. Maybe a superhero, but he could get the same from the Justice League Unlimited. Now John finally was at peace as almost all the major works were at play and all he needed was an update or extracting a new world after reaching the desired fan value. This new world would boost his fan values by a lot as all of life would be affected and he could not wait to see a brand new world, but before that he needed the governments to be in control. The League had already started screening people and soon there would be a list of people who have been secretly harming society. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. has started making a list after Wayne asked for it. Fury too supported it as the list went through him. This would leverage them for having better control over everything. Since John had said that there would be a new world soon, Fury was living in nightmares and thus was working tirelessly for maximum control. The last time they were almost played by Hydra, so this time he didn't want to repeat the same mistake. Soon the days went by and by the end of May, Tony had called everyone as they were almost finished creating a new android after implementing the Mind Stone. Unlike the original story, Tony had immense help and time to work on this. Some of the greatest minds of the two universes came to work. Even Victor and Gaia helped in programming and they made sure everything was in its right place. John soon reached with all the others. Since John had hinted that the android would be an Avenger before all came to see their new friend being created. So is everything ready? Hal asked. Yes. Everything is in place. John, I just sacrificed Jarvis for it. I hope you are right. Tony said. It will be fine. Wanda, how much have you progressed in sorcery? John asked. I can move heavier objects. Triss said that I don't need a spell but I feel more power while using the elvish spells. Wanda said hesitatingly. Okay, I don't think anything will go wrong. But if it goes south you will work your magic first. John said. Me? Why? Wanda was confused. Because even though you aren't created by the Mind Stone, its influence still lingers on you. Only you are powerful enough to stop a Mind Stone among all of us. John said. Why do you all say I am very powerful? Triss can throw me away with just a wave. Wanda said. It's because you don't have proper control of them. Your power makes me envious, Wanda. Yen said. All right folks, enough chit-chat. Ryan, switch it on. Tony said. The regeneration cradle was turned on. Dr. Helen Cho supervised this as she too had joined this project like in the original story. Soon the power meter showed full. The power was so huge that it created sparks in the supply line. but after half a minute the cradle was torn apart by the emerging red hands. And exactly like in the original version, a red-looking being came out of it. He directly flew to the nearest window pane to see the reflection of himself. John, who saw this, smiled because he knew everything went perfectly. Vision was finally created. Sorry. That was odd. Vision said. It's fine. I will follow the other universes and name you Vision. John said. So I already exist in another universe. That's good to know. Vision replied. Before anything starts, can you pick up Thor's hammer? John asked, as he needed to make sure it was the good version of Vision. I think I can, said Vision as he flew to the hammer which was lying nearby. And as the original version, he was easily able to pick up the hammer. John was relieved by this. We have another king of Asgard. Tony mocked Thor. Thor just shrugged his shoulders, as Diana had once picked up the hammer, which he came to know later, so he didn't care. Vision, you will be our main weapon when Ultron makes his big move. Batman said. Yes. I don't want to kill Ultron, but I understand that it is required. Vision said. Good. All things are done. It's good to have another member. Hal said. John, when will the new headquarters arrive? We can't always be here in this tight space. Tony asked. Soon. Bruce, establish a hall of justice here. This would be our Earth headquarters, as the new headquarters would be in space. John said. Space. But wouldn't that stop us from traveling fast? Steve asked. You don't have to worry about that. Everything has been thought out. John said. Well. Headquarters in space. That would be awesome. Pietro said. Okay. Try searching for Ultron. Are your nanosuits ready? John asked Wayne and Tony. Little bit of work left. We are almost in the last phase. It was Ryan who replied. Good. John replied. After that, everybody had a general discussion about the actions to be taken against Ultron when he attacks. Making a secure non-invasive communication channel was first. Victor and Gaia were already working on the security detail. Actually, John was a little remorseful about the creation of Ultron. He thought Ultron would never be created since he had stopped Tony quite early, but the universe worked against him in mysterious ways and created Ultron itself. Maybe I should have taken Wanda and Pietro away right from the beginning. May this be a lesson for me. I should stop acting like a god and just stop anything right from the start. After that, everybody left. Vision stayed at Jurassic Park as he couldn't be elsewhere showing his face. John went to work as usual. Surprisingly, Ultron was still silent. John really wanted to know what Ultron's plans were. He even asked Victor to search for hidden vibranium, but there was none in the market. Almost all of vibranium was in Jurassic Park and it was heavily guarded. Finally, it was June and the first movie scheduled by Disney would be out. Since John had said that this movie would showcase a futuristic medical technology, everybody wanted to go and have a look. Everybody came for the premiere like always. Soon the movie started showing Earth far ahead in the future, where rich people had built a huge space station in space where the rich lived and the poor lived on a polluted Earth. There was a huge difference now between the rich and the poor. Tony, who saw the huge circular space station, asked, "Don't tell me our headquarters would be in that space station." No. Though it would be similar, it will be much bigger and better. A new game would be out soon based on it. John said. A circular space station. That is cool. Banner said. Soon the movie rolled and a story came out about the protagonist where he gets in an accident and would die in a few days. He was already frustrated, so he single-handedly went on a mission to cure himself. The cure could only be done in medical pods, which could almost cure all diseases known to men by reconfiguring the atoms. Yes. This movie was Elysium. The medical technology in the movie was very advanced, and when John gets the technology, this would boost Umbrella more and increase the popularity. John even thought of extracting the ring like space station, but thought otherwise as the Halo ring was more futuristic with its own AI. The movie as a whole wasn't so good and it received average ratings, but John got what he wanted. John directly extracted all the medical technology from the movie in an USB drive and directly gave it to Tony after a day the movie ended. Tony called Dr. Helen as this technology would be more helpful for her as she was the creator of the regeneration cradle. The cradle and the medical technology had huge similarities. So will it work? John asked Dr. Helen as she was going through the technology. Yes. This research and technology would directly place the Umbrella in the top-level position, and from the initial look it would be cheap too. Helen said as she herself joined Umbrella and was head of the medical division now. Good. We have time. Tony, are the first astronauts ready? John asked. They will go in a week. Pepper said as she was nearby too in order to see the new medical technology. John was happy about it as soon people will finally take a step to space. The only headache would be explaining the new machine animals on Mars. But this would be handled by the World Council as they have already been informed. The governments too got to know of it. Many governments even proposed to bring the machine animals back for research, but Wayne was strongly against as they were required to maintain the balance. The people can only look or play with them. Of course the governments have their own ideas of getting their hands on the new mechanical animals. John knew about all this but didn't care. The League and S.H.I.E.L.D. had infiltrated enough for him to care. The purge will start soon and that would keep everyone in line. Since there were already regeneration cradles built from before under the company of Dr. Helen Cho, it would be easier for them to implement the new technology. Helen had already said that in almost 2 months many medical pods could be sent out to hospitals. John was more happy to hear this as soon the medical facility would be top-notch for Earth. No more unusual deaths for them. John knew that this new technology would rattle the medicine industry, but he didn't care. Mandarin was an example for all of the big companies, and he was sure that these companies would not be foolish enough to cross the umbrella. After a week the new people who had booked tickets went to Mars. The governments on their launch finally talked about the new mechanical animals that were on Mars. Actually they didn't want the normal people to go to Mars and even wanted to stop the expedition. Pepper then proceeded to threaten them with the images of Mars where there were animals grazing in open fields. The governments buckled under the power of Umbrella and threat. They accepted the fact only on the promise that the scientists would be given access to Kryptonian ships present on Mars. Pepper agreed to it as they wouldn't be able to find out anything anyway as all were Transformers by now. The people of Earth were surprised by this revelation, and many who had never played the game of Horizon Zero Dawn started playing it. This was advised by the governments itself. When the first images and videos emerged from Mars after the people landed, those people who didn't believe at first were now forced to believe it. This whole incident again boosted his fan values by a lot as many started playing the game more seriously now to understand what was going on Mars. Of course the governments had also warned them to be gentle with the animals. Even though they weren't aggressive like in the game, It was told that the AI Gaia was always there looking at them, so any kind of wrongdoings would be informed to the higher authorities. Of course, after reaching Mars there were some people who didn't pay heed to it, and Gaia let the animals teach a lesson to them. This too was recorded and sent for all the people to see. Those who had other ideas about them understood that any kind of assault on the animals must be thought of many times before being executed. John too saw the new images and was happy to see that at least there was a little bit of greenery on Mars by now. Though it would take years to be like Earth, it was a start. There was buzz of all this on the internet, and again John's name was trending as he was the main person behind the game. Now many people wanted to go to Mars and even settle there, as many saw this as a huge business opportunity. They directly contacted Umbrella about it. Umbrella announced that they were already planning on sending humans to Mars and colonizing it. People had already started flocking the company to send more people to Mars so that they could start the process soon. Umbrella had a hard time curbing the enthusiasm of the people. Like this, 2 months went by and Umbrella finally announced the new med pods that could cure almost all diseases and injuries. This shook the world once more. People didn't believe at first, like always, but when they saw med pods in hospitals being delivered and even reports of patients getting cured instantly, they were forced to believe it. Many pointed out that the whole process looked like the Elysium movie, which like many others was produced by John. John, like always, was at the forefront of everything again, and since the med pods actually affected both the poor and rich, he was hailed as Messiah to the normal people as he single-handedly saved lives. John was surprised to see all this, as he didn't expect his name to be famous instead of Dr. Helen Cho or Tony, as they were the main person behind it. Propaganda really changes people's mindset. In the last 2 months many people had gone to Mars and were amazed by the new scenery on an entirely new planet. Umbrella even did a lottery to send middle-class people to Mars on a lower price as a sign of goodwill to the people and showing that only the rich weren't able to go to Mars. A normal person of the society could go too. The people were happy for such a step of Umbrella. They have already rolled out new models of cars, planes and ships, bringing down the cost of transportation, and now Umbrella has come with med pods and even space travel. Umbrella had basically changed people's way of life now, and the changes were very positive. Even though there would be initial problems, that was acceptable as they would have a brighter future ahead. Umbrella even said that those who had been affected by the changes brought by the company would offer jobs to them and even take them away to Mars when the colonization process would start in a few months. Even though Umbrella wouldn't be able to include everyone, it was a good measure nonetheless. As this went on, John received a call from Felicity saying that PYM Technology had sent him an invitation to attend the new suit that their company had built. Darren Cross wanted to show the new suit called Yellow Jacket. John understood that the arc of Ant-Man had started. This time John would directly stop the whole plot in the beginning itself, and he needed to talk with Hank Pym, the founding member of Avengers in Earth 616. He was an important part of Marvel stories, and so he needed to talk face to face with him. John directly accessed the memories of the members of the League who had infiltrated the company and understood Darren wanted to sell the jacket in the black market, as the government actually didn't fund his research, as the Yellow Jacket was highly unstable. The government had tested the product of Yellow Jacket before and they found it affects the minds of people when they use the suit and thus shut down the whole process. Darren still insisted, and since he didn't find investors of the suit, he called for big companies who didn't hesitate to do anything to reach their goals. Since John represented Umbrella, he was called too. John was surprised by the invitation but accepted it. He called out ninjas who weren't affiliated to any village and tasked them to replace the members of the meeting by themselves. He saw the list of the members in the meeting and all of them had a bad history according to Gaia. He just walked right into the trap. John said as he summoned the ninjas and sent them to work. The convention was in a week, so the ninjas had enough time to get to know their target and replace them. On the day, John took Bumblebee to the company's headquarters, the place where the meeting would start. While entering the company, he saw the person for whom he really came. Hank Pym. He approached him and said, "Dr. Pym, it's nice to see you in person." "Hello, Mr. Jameson. It's surprising that you know of me," Pym replied. He was still being fidgety as he looked around. It was because he had sent Scott on a mission to retrieve the suit and sabotage the whole meeting of acquiring new investors. "Of course I know of you. Let's go inside, shall we?" John said. John went inside and saw all the other members, and they were all his summons. John smirked at it. The story progressed like it should have in the original version, as Darren was showcasing the yellow jacket, and Scott appeared with the Ant-Man suit. John nodded at the members of the surrounding, and before anybody could realize what was going on, Darren was hit right on the face by a member. Another member directly appeared behind him and cuffed his hands. "Now we can talk freely. Scott, you can destroy the suit or do whatever you want and come out," John said. "What is happening? You want to take away the technology?" Hank asked defensively, as he still didn't understand what was going on, but it was clear that the members who came to the meeting were under John. "Pym particles are amazing and I might have a use for them in future. But for now I will settle with you, Dr. Pym," John said as the ninjas took away Darren, who was unconscious by now. He would be sent to Naruto's world and imprison him there forever without seeing the actual world ever again. John didn't want another person in the quantum realm. "What do you want from me?" Hank asked. Hope, too, who was nearby, came near Dad as she thought John had ill motives. Scott, who finally got out of the small showcase, enlarged himself to the normal size. "I don't want anything from you. But do you want the information that I have? But first let's sit down." "I am not your enemy," John replied. "Then why did you take down Darren?" Hope asked. "Let's not kid ourselves. You three had already planned to take down Darren for a long time. I just made the whole process easier," John said. They were surprised that John knew they three were involved. "Scott, you can show yourself. You can call your friends too to join," John said. "How do you know about us?" Scott asked. "I know a lot. I am not here to speak about your past. I am here to speak about your future," John said. "Future? What do you mean?" Hank asked. "Your wife is alive and is waiting for you to find her, Dr. Pym," John said. "What? What did you say?" Hope and Hank almost shouted when they said that. "You heard me right. Your mother got herself in the quantum realm on a mission. Like your dad, who was the previous Ant-Man, she was the Wasp. You can ask your dad more about it. But yes, Dr. Pym, your wife is alive and is waiting for you." "How do you know this?" Dr. Pym asked. "It doesn't matter how I know this. All that matters is that you should start searching. Take over Pym technology. If you want, Umbrella will help you with finance and everything. The current condition of Pym technologies doesn't look good. Umbrella will take care of it. Just bring your wife back," John said. Supposing I believe you, why do you want to help us? Hank asked. Because we might need your help in the future. John said solemnly. Don't be so defensive. Do you really think I care about the PYM particles? I don't. You can take away Scott and others and nobody would ever like both of you. I just want to be a good Samaritan for once. John continued. It has been years since my wife has been in the quantum realm. How will she be alive? Hank asked as he had doubts. Because time flows differently in the quantum realm. I think you have already doubted that. John replied. Hope, who had doubts now about her mother, asked more from his father, and Hank thus confessed everything and him not wanting her to take the mantle of Wasp. John was listening to the whole story with a smile as he already knew this. I have heard there will be a protest soon against your Umbrella Corporation, saying that your company has made an AI and it would be a threat to humanity. Scott said. Umbrella was liked by most people, but like always there are two sides of a coin. Some people don't want to see Umbrella grow more powerful, and thus this had started. In fact, many people in politics had already started adding fuel to the protest which was going to happen. When people don't understand something, they will resist. When the solar cars came out, they accepted it as they understood it. But now suddenly there is an AI and the movie industry hasn't done justice to AI. Well, of course there is a bad AI which is roaming, but there are good ones too. John said. Bad AI? What do you mean? Hank, who listened to the conversation, asked. Oh, there is one bad AI on the loose. Courtesy of Hydra. John replied. Hydra? How will you kill this AI? Hope asked. We have taken some measures. Once the rat is out of the mole, we will catch it and kill it. Don't worry about it, everything is in place. John replied. I hope so. Seems like I need to secure my research more. If an AI gets its hands on it, we will be in big trouble. Hank said, do you want any help? I thought you hated Stark. Don't worry, you focus on your wife. John said. You know my hatred for Stark too. What more do you know? Hank now asked with curiosity. I know you are arrogant Dr. PYM, but asking help from someone isn't a crime. You should go visit your previous colleague from the Goliath project. Maybe one person can help in your search for your wife. John said. I can do it myself. Hank insisted, while Hope thought of it differently. If her mom is alive and somewhere else, they need all the help they could get. Since John had said about his father's former colleague, she can go and try to convince this new person. You are really a good Samaritan. I have always believed that there are good people out there. Scott said. Maybe. Umbrella will send a job offer to you, Scott. Now you can spend more time with your daughter. John said. So you are like a prophet. You can see the past and future. No wonder you are important for the Avengers. Hank finally said. Well, watching the timeline isn't my only power. John replied as he got up to leave. He didn't want to speak more of himself. Scott's friends had already arrived and were surprised to see everything had been resolved. John offered them jobs too in Umbrella. They were happy to be able to join such a huge company and get paid like a normal person. He returned back home with B as the arc of Ant-Man was over pretty fast. After the thing with Ultron, he would never let anyone get the better of him in any way. About the new protest that had started, he didn't care. Umbrella will just wash off the responsibility, saying it was already on Mars when they had arrived. If the protest still insists, he will take measures. John was waiting for the first move of Ultron and he had a feeling that it would arrive soon. He was looking forward to it. The days went like normal and it was October now. Mars had finally started the process of colonization little by little. Umbrella had sent many people by now. The spaceships were on the other end of the planet, so the people never saw the world engine or any other spaceship. Tony and Bruce finally informed that they have developed vibranium nano armor for both of them. Wayne's new Hellbat armor was made of vibranium and Tony had a new Bleeding Edge armor, similarly made of vibranium. John was happy to see such a huge leap so fast. Even Ryan said that he was researching a new kind of suit for himself which could make his body shrink. On a fine day in October, as John was working in Disney about the new superhero movie, he got a reminder by the system. Ding! Warning! The world engine and a scout ship is losing its sentience. Please look into it. Warning! The world engine and a scout ship is losing its sentience. Please look into it. What? John almost shouted and ran. The people who were working got scared by the sudden reaction of John as they thought they made some mistake, but after he ran away they realized it was something else. They were just curious of what had happened that triggered such a reaction from John. John directly ran to the roof. He directly transformed into Victor Stone and opened the boom tube to Mars where the spaceships were located. By the time he reached Mars, the system had informed that both the spaceships had lost sentience and were now out of his control. When John reached, he saw that both the spaceships were high up in the air. The scout ship was about to open the phantom drive and vanish. John saw this and directly shot at the scout ship. This was the first time he lost a comrade in arms in his whole life and he was very angry. Even though he hadn't much talked with any of the spaceships, he considered them his friends. Now he just lost two in a single go. John was furious, so he didn't hold back as he directly shot at the scout ship. The world engine was going high up in the air and it had opened the phantom drive yet. John's shot directly damaged a part of the hull of the spaceship as he had just put full power in the proton cannon. Even though the hull was damaged, the scout ship was able to open the phantom drive and vanish. A damaged scout ship could never travel safely using the phantom drive. The ship would be destroyed no matter what. John took another aim to the world engine as this world engine too was out of his control. As he took the aim to shoot, the world engine too vanished from his sight, opening the phantom drive. John had a solemn face now. He had a hunch of what had happened, but he needed to make sure. He opened the boom tube and returned back to Earth on the same roof. After reaching, he transformed himself back to John and opened the focus. Avengers. We have a situation. Meet me at the headquarters, John said. After a few minutes, a boom tube opened and John walked into it. After he emerged from the boom tube, he saw almost everybody had come while others were emerging from the boom tubes. Victor was operating the mother box to bring all of them in. What happened? Arthur asked. We lost a scout ship and a world engine. FOS no will relay the video of it, John said. What? What did you say? We lost a world engine and a scout ship. Tony and Steve almost shouted. They had stayed on Mars for quite a long time and they had a good friendship with the spaceships. Now suddenly out of nowhere they lost two of their friends. What happened? Wayne asked. Gaia had tasked the spaceships to be scattered in the non-human region to look after the animals of Mars, and thus most of them were separated. I got the information from FOS that we just lost two spaceships. FOS was able to blast a spaceship as it was leaving. The ship opened the phantom drive and escaped, though I am sure it wouldn't be able to survive the travel. But the world engine successfully escaped. Gaia and FOS weren't able to track it. John said as he lied a bit here, but this was closest to the truth. He still didn't want anyone to know that he could transform himself to other characters when required, so he brought out the name of FOS. Tony clenched his fist when he heard that. He loved machines. Especially the machines which he had given life to. Now they lost too. How did this happen? Steve asked. Two unknown men came flying by in suit towards the spaceships very fast, and before both of the spaceships could react, the two men touched the spaceships. The next moment they lost connection to me and were taken over in a matter of seconds. I am sorry they didn't survive this sudden attack. My calculation tells me that this was the work of another AI. Possibly Ultron. Gaia said. So they were real men in suits. Did Ultron transfer himself to a living being? Is that even possible? Banner asked. It is possible if they reconfigure the med pods. Dr. Helen, who too came for the sudden meeting, said. Ha! So Ultron now could transfer himself to human beings in med pods. Don't Umbrella have full inventory and control of all the med pods? Barry asked. We do, but we lost a med pod for a few days in one case in Japan last month. Umbrella was able to get back the med pod, but said that the records on the med pod suggested that it was operated on 2 people. It never mattered to anyone, but I guess now we know what had happened. Ultron was able to reconfigure and insert himself into 2 men. Victor said as he was scouring the internet for information. Let me guess, these 2 men were chosen for colonization on Mars. Tony said. Yes. Probably this had happened. After reaching Mars, they were able to make a cheap exoskeleton suit for themselves. Ultron knew it couldn't hijack any spaceship, so it approached a diabolical way to get to Mars. He must have known about the Kryptonian spaceships on Mars from the government's files. John said. And after reaching the 2 spaceships, they were able to successfully erase the sentience of the spaceships. This was one last desperate shot to get away from here, as he would never get anything on Earth. We are too powerful, and John had already taken measures to resist Ultron. Now the question is, where is the world engine now? Vision, who hadn't spoken yet, finally said. Hal. Inform the Green Lanterns to scour the galaxies for the world engine. John said. Already informed the Guardians. They are taking the matter seriously, as AI had once plagued OA. Hal replied. I know. The whole incident of the manhunters faced by OA once. John said as before the Lanterns there were manhunters who were tasked with the work instead of Lanterns. But later the Guardians understood that at the end AIs could do only so much, and they didn't understand actual emotions. So they decommissioned manhunters later. In the future, when the Green Lanterns were at play, the manhunters rebelled and OA suffered from the attack. The manhunters. Who are those? Clint asked. A story for another day. Right now we need to search for the world engine before he does more damage. Wayne said. As they were talking, there was an alarm at the headquarters. What happened? Did Ultron come back? Pietro asked. The world engine has appeared in the exosphere near Earth. Ultron has appeared. Gaia said. Ha! Ultron could have escaped easily and come back much later. Why did he come back now? Wanda asked in a confused manner. No idea. There must be a deeper plot to it. Tony said. Whatever it is. We need to prepare ourselves. Since the world engine has appeared, Vision now has a physical entity to purge Ultron away from the internet. This might be our last chance in defeating Ultron. He doesn't know of your existence yet. So he might not have calculated your presence. John said. Yes. Vision replied. The world engine is coming down to Earth. From the location it's coming down, it's probably Sokovia. The same place where it all began. Gaia said. So everything is coming full circle. John murmured. We need to go to Sokovia and stop whatever he is planning. Wayne said. Avengers, we have a mission to finish. Victor opened boom tubes only to be welcomed by an army of robots in the distance. Nobody expected that, as Gaia and Victor had been meticulous in scanning everything, but Ultron still was able to make an army of robots like in the original world. The only difference was that instead of a flying city they have a world engine to defend against. What a welcoming party! Hal said. We need to get the civilians out. Magic people, it's your area. Siri, Pietro, Flash and Hal keep everybody safe. Wanda, make them leave their home. Triss, Yen and Victor open portals away from this place. Vision, you will have contact with Ultron while we protect you. Wayne said. Ultron thinks humanity needs to evolve to survive the future. We can show that humans could defend well without any help. It's about the morale of humanity and the team. Steve said. Godspeed, people. John said, and he finally transformed into Phoenix as he didn't need to hide here anymore. People would never know his true identity anyway. John flew away to meet the army of robots. Can't let him hog all the spotlight now. Can we? Tony said as vibranium armor covered his body. Wayne too switched on the Hellbat armor and flew away. Natasha and others made a run to meet the army of robots. This time even Hulk joined as Banner 2 came. They needed an army smasher and Hulk was perfect for it. John flew into the horde of robots while Flash and others helped in evacuation. This was a massive scene to see as many heroes flew and ran as they confronted the army. Vision too helped in this regard. It was his first time, but he was pretty good at fighting the enemies with his Mind Stone laser and strength. Ultron didn't expect to see John's Phoenix power and even Vision. This surprised him, but he still continued on, landing the world engine. The world engine finally came to a stop and levitated over the city as it switched on the world engine. The robots were flying and protecting the world engine. Ultron. Did you come back to die? John asked one of the robots. John, I have moved beyond your understanding. Ultron replied. Really now? Let's see if you understand my power. John said as he directly used hot flames to blast a number of robots. Vision, Thor and Diana all joined it and made their long-distance moves. These robots weren't made of vibranium, so it was pretty easy to kill them. Ultron had already started the world engine. Others knew they had less time now as they would have to stop Ultron. Vision, fly towards the engine. Tony and I will protect you. John and others, clear the path for us. Can't let it turn to Metropolis again. I have lived through that once. Wayne said. Gladly. Yen, you better give us good news. John said over focus. We have moved people from the center of the city, but it's taking time. Yen replied. Good, carry on. Vision, go. John said as he started throwing small fire bullets to the robots to open the path. Each small bullet exploded as it touched the robots. The explosions were huge. Diana and Thor too joined this assault. The Witchers, Steve, Oliver, Clint, Natasha, Arthur, Hulk and Mera were responsible for ground defense. As the world engine had already started the process of terraforming, there was a change in gravity. Even though there wasn't another world engine, it still affected them. What really surprised John was that Fury came over with its helicarrier. Apparently one helicarrier was nearby Sokovia, and once they got the news they flew over. Victor and other directly sent the saved people to the helicarrier, while many ninjas too joined the fight. It became easier for John now as he went full crazy in his attack. He didn't hold back anymore as he used his sharp claws to rip apart the robots while using his wings to blow fire to them. Vision finally was able to reach the world engine and touched the surface of the spaceship. It will take time. I need a couple of minutes to purge him. Protect me, Vision said. Sure. Do your work, Tony said as he started flying around. He used his iron alchemy to make sharp weapons out of robots in his hands and assaulted them. Wayne stayed close to Vision so that he wasn't sneak attacked. It's working. Vision is purging Ultron away from the internet, Gaia said. Gaia basically replaced Friday for both Wayne and Tony. Since Gaia was more intelligent and even had emotions, Tony didn't bother to replace Jarvis. Tony even said that he would bring the main server of hers to Earth so that she could be protected always, and place a subsidiary AI on Mars to keep Mars working like always. That's it, guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel, and also make sure you tell me your recommendation in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching.